let's give everybody a great analogy. Okay.
All
Here's
right,
what
love it.
scripts are. Scripts are, imagine if you were going to like a high school dance and you had your team with you, right? You have your team of people who are going to be dancing.
Right.
And you take your format for dancing and you hand them the format for dancing and you say, okay, now go out there and do this, right? Are they
Yep.
going to look, is that going to look normal? Are they going to be like flowing with the rhythm and other people? Is that going to work well?
No.
That's not going to work well. The moment they step out there, this becomes irrelevant and doesn't work anymore, right?
It's true.
But if you could teach them some key moves, right? If they had a few key moves and you could teach them rhythm and you could teach them some principles and go
Right.
and say, now go out there and apply those in the way that's appropriate in the moment. That works.
So true. That's so true. Welcome to Business Insights with Matt Milia. I'm your host, Matt Milia, and in this podcast, we'll talk about the real, raw, uncut business success secrets you won't find anywhere else. Follow my journey from entry level to CEO. We discuss real actionable items you can plug into your business right away. To subscribe to our weekly top tips, you can go to www.mattpodcast.com and join our community of elite high-level performers. And if you're interested in our inside sales company, you can go to www.appointmentstoday.com to jump on a free strategy call. And now, stay tuned for our podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Matt Milia here. I want to welcome you guys to episode number 2, Business Insights with Matt Milia. And of course, I have Kristen, I have Dale Archdekin on the line today. And we're going to be talking about some of the greatest business decisions of all time. And me bringing Dale on was one of those. So,
you keep going.
You gotta love that plug. So Dale, for everybody who doesn't know you, and maybe they're living under a rock. I don't know. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Kind of give us a little intro as to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the founder of Smart Inside Sales. We're a coaching and training company for agents, ISAs, and teams, and we primarily focus on lead conversion, scripting, dialogue, sales processes, and also we work with team leaders and brokers on how to optimize and grow their sales teams.
I love it. All right.
Is that a good elevator pitch? Did I get it good?
It's good. I like it. So as far as for you, and I mean, because in this side of the business, I mean, we both know, Chris and I both are part of an inside sales company. Dale is a trainer for inside sales, but agents as well. And, the number one bottleneck that I feel in the industry is that everyone's always looking for more leads, but they don't necessarily want to put in that extra work for that conversion side of it.
You know what? They're looking for the magic leads.
Yes.
Right? Like the magic beans, right?
Yep.
They're like, wait a minute, somebody has all the good leads out there. I'm not getting the good ones. I want the good ones. Where are the good ones? Right?
The Glengarry leads.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what you and I do, so we work together so well because you guys are out there breaking rocks in the sun all day looking for the nuggets, right? And I'm teaching people how to get their asses out there and break rocks in the sun so that they can find the nuggets.
100%. I think that. There we go. I made it a nice little more aesthetically pleasing. I don't know if you guys can. I made a nice little where you guys are. We have like a Brady Bunch type style looking now, so I like it.
I didn't see anything change. I still see the bumper bowling going on with my video.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Well, I made it so that we're basically Kristen's on top. Dale, you're right below, and then I'm on the right-hand side, so it's got like a Brady Bunch feel to it. But I mean, I kind of like it. So as far as Dale, what got you? Tell us a little bit about kind of your story. Like, what got you into this role, this industry? What was it? What was the path that took you here?
You want my creation story, right?
Yep.
So I got into this industry back when the industry was booming, when real estate was going crazy during the last hot, spike in the market, when basically anybody could sell real estate, everybody was selling real estate, and anybody could buy real estate. And it's when all the supermodels were selling real estate, right? Which is the first thing that goes when the market turns, is what I discovered. It's us unattractive people that are left over, right? When times are tough, believe me. When you look around and you're like, there's no hot people selling real estate anymore, that's when you know you're at the bottom of the market.
Yep, that's so true.
Theory. That's my theory. So anyway, I got into it because I actually went to school for design, believe it or not. I went to art school. I was an artsy kid, right? Design, glass art, like sculpture, stuff like that. And I got a degree, and please, my artists out there, forgive me. You notice I collect art, right? So I support the arts. So forgive me for saying this. I worked as a designer for about 4 years out of college. And what I discovered was that the more hard work that I put out, the only thing that I got was more hard work to do. They were like, oh, great, you can work harder. Here's more work. And I was like, well, could I have more dollars with that? And they were like, no, not really, but here's lots of work. And I was like, shit, this is not working out for me, man. And I saw these people selling real estate, right? And, I was like, I'm at least, half as smart as those people. And I know that I can make a lot of money too. And they make it look so easy. So I wanted to get into it. I got into it and the market collapsed. And I was like, man, maybe this is the one time I should have listened to my dad. But I didn't. And so I was like, what do I do now? And I'm like, I had experience when I was in like high school from working in a call center, like selling credit card insurance, like back in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
I was like, well, I know that I can pick up the phone and talk to strangers, and I don't know what else to do. So that's what I started doing. And I actually bought some training online about how to be a prospector. And I was like listening to these MP3s, like teaching me how to have sales conversations and how to close people, and listening to mindset things. And so as I kept consuming training, I got better and better, and to the point where I became one of the top expired and for sale by owner listing agents in my market. If I didn't take it, I could tell you one of the two other people that got it. And so then another agent noticed that, and he had a small team that was doing pretty well, and they had just bought a brand new website that was throwing off tons of leads, but his agents were lazy and they were cherry picking. I'm sure nobody's ever heard of that before, right? That's not the whole reason for your business, is it, Matt?
No.
So he came to me and he was like, hey, man, you're really awesome at working these leads. Would you come and work them for me so we can drive more revenue out of this? And I was like, I'm honored, but I'm burned out, man. I want to teach other people how to do this. So we joined forces and grew that team from 5 agents and 100 transactions to 30 agents and 650 transactions, and developed a process where we could take a stranger off the street, give them our leads, teach them our processes, and they could produce another 40 to 60 transactions in the first 12 months. And then I decided that I wanted to work from home and not wear pants for the rest of my life, and I opened a coaching and training company.
I love it.
And now I'm here with you.
Nice. Oh, I love it. So, yes, Jay, I mean, you brought up a really good point too. I mean, the cherry picking, we have clients that, I mean, they're amazing at calling their leads. And then we have, we've had people over time that they don't call leads. And in a lot of cases, even people that cherry pick, I mean, it's good, at least they're doing that. But now I feel like the real estate game has changed so much, because it used to be where, I mean, I remember we'd get on the phone, hammer out expires and FSBOs, and there's still a huge market for that, but it has dwindled because less people are picking up the phone. So when I feel like when you're on, when it's really when it's go time, you need to be on your A game, because you may not have 30 conversations like it used to be where you'd call all these people. I mean, hell, when I was calling for Al, I mean, I remember 2012, 2013. I mean, it seems like eons ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. And I would make these calls. I'd call 100 people a day, and we talk to somewhere between 20 and 25 people. That same 100 people, you might only talk to 4 or 5. So It's that much more important, in my opinion. It's just that much more important that you are on your A game. And Kristen can even talk to, I mean, Kristen, you were a realtor in the 90s. So, I mean, you remember the expired game. I mean, was the pickup rate pretty good back then?
It was relatively good if you started early. That was kind of the thing, like, and the thing was, you'd really upset some people if you called them at, sometimes 7 a.m, but that was kind of how you got a hold of everybody. But yeah, I mean, I can imagine we get so barraged now with phone calls. I imagine the pickup rate would just be way less than what it would used to be. I mean, especially with expireds mind you, who everyone's calling, by the way, there's a lot more people calling them too. So now they're getting barraged with people.
I don't know what you're seeing, Matt, but across my coaching clients, on average, we're seeing somewhere between 7 up to 10 dials to a pickup.
Yeah, that's probably. I mean, even 10 dials a pickup that's good. I would say, I mean, and again, every market is very different, but I mean, I would probably tell you that on us, I mean, for us, the worst I've seen is 25 dials per pickup. I know the best I've seen was like 7 or 8. So, and a lot of the times what I'm telling most of our people to start doing, we've dramatically increased our contact rate because we've started doing now more texting. So, I mean, we're now, really more of a contact center than just specifically a call center. I'd say probably about 33% of the time to 40% of the time we're sending texts. And the good thing with the text is people are actually, oh, you're not trying to sell me something. Oh, I actually am somewhat interested in selling my home. I will entertain a conversation. For everybody that's just kind of tuning in, I met Dale in Vegas, which, I mean, we weren't there. We were there for a real estate conference. I mean, we had a great time, but we were there learning things. We were there for EXPCon, and we got to sit through we got to sit into Cliff Freeman's mastermind. But one of the things that you said that stuck with me, because I want to make sure that everyone who's watching gets massive value. When you make someone tell their story multiple times, they don't want to tell their story multiple times, and they're only going to tell it in a way that they're going to give the next person just a little bit less information. And if you get to that point where all of a sudden they've just divulged every single nuance of their life, they're going to be like, man, I'm tired. I don't even want to have a conversation with more people. What are you doing later on? Can you come by my house and tell me what the hell you think this thing's going to sell for? Yeah. I mean, and Dale, if you could speak a little bit kind of on like what that philosophy, I mean, it's so funny because it isn't something that's earth shattering, but it is something that is so like taking it down to the ground level and saying, hey, this type of thing, and you have to almost think about it in daily communication. If you're telling someone your story constantly and consistently, you're only going to want to tell that story so many times before your voice goes hoarse. Like, I don't want to talk anymore. I mean, how did you discover that? I mean, what was one of the big discoveries that you had when it came to that? I mean, did you discover it while you were calling? Was it after the fact? Was it through something you listened to? What was it that brought you to that?
I've discovered it from experience. I've discovered it from listening to thousands upon thousands of hours of calls, and also realizing it when you put it into the context of yourself. And think about yourself, right? When you're looking for somebody, when you're looking for a service provider to do something, right? We're all lazy. We are all actually lazy. And those people that are really out of the ordinary, the ones who will call every single vendor and vet every single one and compare all of the offers, aren't they crazy? They're slightly crazy. Like, you want them to do your taxes for you, but you're like, Jesus, that's too much work. That's nuts. Now,
right.
The rest of us are on some spectrum between, well, I heard a name on the radio and that's what I'm going to use, and I haven't done any research on it whatsoever, up to, well, I called a few, I spoke to one, I asked them a couple questions, and this I'm talking internally in your brain, and you're like, okay, I think I'm going to go with that one, right? Isn't this, right? This is what happens to all of us, right?
So true.
It's true. So if you think about it from that perspective, what's going on? When you speak to that lead, what I also discovered, we know this to be true, nobody likes talking to a salesperson until they're ready to talk to a salesperson. I hate talking to salespeople until I'm ready to buy something and I have a specific conversation for you, right?
And I'm a
Oh,
sucker. I'm a sucker when it comes to salespeople because like literally they'll say something and I'm like, that's a really good line. And I'm sitting there like writing, I'm like, yeah, that's really impactful. I like what they just said there. And then I'm like, oh wait, hell, they're trying to sell me something. I gotta
right.
calm down
That's
and
funny.
keep my guard up. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you combine, most people don't want to talk to a salesperson, and you
Right.
combine it with people are lazy, and when they identify somebody who can solve their problem and knows their full story, they're going to stick with them. It's
Yep.
pretty logical if you combine those two, right? If I
Yeah.
can get a conversation with you, I'm going to get you to tell your full story to me because I know that you're going to be less likely to do it or want to do it with any other salesperson who comes behind me.
Right.
And
So
if
true.
I get that full story and I get embedded in your head, psychologically, you will decide that you are likely going to use me. Now, the caveat to this is until something better comes along, right? Or until I forget you or you don't follow up with me, right?
Yeah. It's true.
But
It's true. And
psychologically, those are the two things that you're causing to happen. And the third thing is, haven't you noticed how much you like somebody who listens to your story and who is interested in you?
yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. And it's like the more you talk, the more you tell them, and they aren't interrupting you or telling you things, you're like, he's kind of a smart person. He's kind of like me. This is rapport. It's what everybody talks about, right?
Yep.
You've got these three elements that go into that. So if you can interact with somebody, get them to tell you their full story, get everything out of them, wring them out, right? Like a sponge. You've got
Right.
those three factors working in your favor.
That's huge. And I wanna just kind of circle back to that real quick because I think so many people take it for granted. I love when people are saying, "Oh, my scripts suck. Oh, the leads are terrible.
Yes,
Oh,
your script does suck.
well, right." And
Stop using your script.
well, you're right. Oh my God, thank you. Yes. And the funny thing is, you would think that we actually rehearsed that.
No.
I hate scripts. Scripts are bullshit. And here's why I say that because you need to have an approach that's internalized. And look, you can have a script for life. I could go out, I could plan my day. I could say this is going to be the greatest day ever. I'm going to accomplish all these things, and none of that shit comes true. None of that happens. It's like everything goes to hell in a handbasket in that day. So what do? You have to pivot. You have to figure out, well,
Yeah.
what do I need to do now in
Matt,
order to get to my goal?
let's give everybody a great analogy. Okay. Here's
All right,
what
love it.
scripts are. Scripts are, imagine if you were going to like a high school dance and you had your team with you, right? You have your team of people who are going to be dancing.
Right.
And you take your format for dancing and you hand them the format for dancing and you say, okay, now go out there and do this, right? Are they
Yep.
going to look, is that going to look normal? Are they going to be like flowing with the rhythm and other people? Is that going to work well?
No.
That's not going to work well. The moment they step out there, this becomes irrelevant and doesn't work anymore, right?
It's true.
But if you could teach them some key moves, right? If they had a few key moves and you could teach them rhythm and you could teach them some principles and go
Right.
and say, now go out there and apply those in the way that's appropriate in the moment. That works.
So true. That's so true. And it's funny because my wife actually went to school for dance, and I mean, she literally, I mean, I thought I was the greatest dancer ever, and then until I met her, she's like, "Man, what the hell are you doing?" Like, got my hands above my head, and yeah, she's like, "No, you can't be doing stuff like that." So
that's how most agents and ISAs are talking to people in the real world.
Right. They're just totally they're trying to free flow, but they've got some old antiquated script they found online or something, and they're trying to sit there and read through it, and it doesn't sound genuine, it doesn't sound authentic. And even with our inside sales reps, I mean, the one thing I tell them is, say, listen, internalize that script, but hang it up somewhere on the wall, because if you get lost, whatever the case may be, you can glance back at it and be like, oh yeah, here's what I'm supposed to say at this point, or respond. But you shouldn't be sitting there reading the damn thing because it's going to sound disingenuous. And ultimately, the goal is to break down the barrier. And I tell my team all the time, I go, guys, handling objections and getting to that end part it's not my favorite thing to do. My favorite thing to do is to eliminate those objections before they even happen. So giving everybody a little bit of extra firepower here. The great way to eliminate an objection up front, if someone's like, oh, whatever they're talking about, you're having a conversation with them, they're like, oh yeah, we're thinking about selling our house. Oh, we're thinking about selling our house. That's great. So you and your wife, or and again, or significant other. Oh, so you and your significant other. Okay, so if it's you and your significant other, are you guys both on the same page? How long have you been thinking about this? That way, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, check in the box. When I get to the end of the call, I got to talk to my wife. No bullshit. You don't have to talk to your wife. You told me all around the same page. Now, don't respond to people like that. They won't like that. You got to be a little softer with it. But we put the check in the box. The check in the box was you told me initially you and your wife were on the same page. Now all of a sudden we know that they're pushing off the inevitable. They're just brushing you off.
Yeah.
So great point.
So we can finish that out, right? We can finish that script out. So what do you do at that point, right? So we've gotten down to it. So now we can isolate the objection. Yep. Okay, well, you mentioned that both you and your wife are on the same page about deciding to sell. So that's not what you need to talk to her about, right? Now they're like, oh shit, here we go.
They got me. Now I got to tell them the real answer.
Yeah, and now we're like, okay, so then what would it be that you need to discuss with her first? So it's not whether or not to sell. Is it simply whether to meet with us now, right? Or what is it you need to discuss?
Yep, and that's where we eliminate in the beginning. What's the time frame on this? If I could wave a magic wand, I know it kind of sounds corny, but hey, if I could wave the magic wand, when would you want to be in your new house? I mean, and again, there's other ways to say it, but the goal of it is to ultimately identify and eliminate the objections, because we already know. And I mean, I look at it, there's usually 4 or 5 different objections. One is I want to think about it, pray on it, talk to someone, whatever the case may be. I need to speak with my wife. I mean, that all encompasses that. We want to wait till after the holidays, or maybe I want to wait in general, just because I don't think it's the right time of the year. Or, I'm sitting here kind of scratching, like figuring out what other really objections are there. Oh, my uncle's a realtor, my aunt, my cousin, my brother, my whatever. You get the same ones. So if you start asking the questions up front and then you get them to tell you their story, the likelihood of them not just saying, yeah, come to the house is pretty slim for them to not tell you, yes, come and visit me, because ultimately you're eliminating all that stuff up front. I mean, do you feel the same way on that, Dale? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I do. I actually want to add to it. So
go ahead.
Although there aren't that many objections, for instance, you mentioned, I want to wait till the spring, or I'm going to list with this particular agent, or whatever it is. Some of those, even I want to think about it has a lot of stuff underneath it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or could. But those objections that are pretty common, people have different reasons for giving you those objections, right? So there are a myriad of reasons for waiting until the spring. There are a myriad of reasons for using a particular agent that isn't you. And so what we teach in terms of our objection handling process is not just sticking at, I want to wait till the spring, but figuring out what they think they're going to get, the unique outcomes, what they think they're going to gain or avoid by doing that, right? Is it because they think they're going to get more money, or they think they're going to ensure that it happens, get some kind of guarantee? Is it because they want to do repairs first? Is it because somebody told them that there are more buyers in the spring, or that people pay more money in the spring? Like, what is it about that objection that you think you're going to get or avoid? Because once you get down to those things, and Matt, remember I was teaching this in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
The way that we close, the way that we make an offer is I figure out what are the key things you want to get or avoid, and I just simply sell those back to you with more, better, cheaper, faster, or easier on top of it, right?
Right. Who doesn't love more, better, cheaper, faster, easier? Sorry. Who doesn't love that? I mean, really, that's awesome.
Thank you.
More, better, faster, cheaper, easier.
Yeah. So we find out the easiest way to pitch somebody, right? Instead of arguing with them, instead of trying to re-educate them, usually. Now, there's times when somebody's just totally wrong, totally off base, whatever it is. But usually it's like, oh, you want a chocolate donut? Well, what if I could give you a chocolate donut with sprinkles and a napkin so that you don't get it all over your clothes, right? And they're like, well, yes, I wanted a chocolate donut. I'll take the sprinkles and the napkin. Great. Like
Right.
that's the concept.
And it's funny because everything that you're saying is about disarming, but also I call it going 3 levels deep. I always love when I listen to calls and someone's like, I'm like, oh, so, what's got you wanting to sell your house? Which, by the way, I don't know why people don't do this. And I mean, as someone who runs an inside sales company, and I know for you, Dale, for someone who trains, I think the most logical question that everyone should always ask, what is it that's causing you to do X? What is it that has you interested in Y?
Yeah, you know what, Matt? I think that nobody should get paid. Nobody should be allowed to work with a client unless they've asked that damn question.
Yeah, it's huge because you're literally uncovering all of the hidden objectives, you're uncovering the motives, and you're literally identifying the roadmap to where you want to take them on this phone call. Because again, if someone's like, oh, I want to sell really fast because I just bought a new home in Boca. Okay, so I'm not going to tell them about how much money we can net them and that we have this world's greatest program that gives them tons of money. No, I'm going to talk about
how fast we get it done and how fast we've got it done for other people.
Right. I'm going to talk about our super fast, guaranteed buyout program where they'll get their house sold quickly and still get top dollar. By the way, what's more important to you, quickly or top dollar? And usually they're like, oh, I want a mix of the two. Oh, that's great. I'll give you our, our vanilla chocolate mix program. Here's how we do it. Whatever it is. I mean, the point is that you got to have something to differentiate yourself. And I mean, I will tell you, and I know you know this as well, Dale, the one thing that I found that is really impactful, because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to hire an inside sales rep. Oh, I want to hire a coaching company, whatever the case may be. You've got to develop a unique selling proposition. What makes you different than the other agents? And I mean, I tell people all the time, hey, you should offer maybe a guarantee type of a program that you're buying out the house. Oh, well, I don't want to be buying people's houses. Hey, I totally get it. When you tell them what the numbers you're going to give them, they probably don't want you to buy out their house either. Now,
I will buy any house 40 cents on the dollar today.
Oh, absolutely.
Contact.
Absolutely. I mean, all it is that you're breaking down the barrier because it's a marketing technique. You're breaking the barrier. The barrier is I don't know you, therefore I don't trust you, therefore I will not listen to you. And that's all you're doing. So if you're like, well, hey, listen, let me help you get past all of that. Then when you meet with them, 90% of the time, they don't even ask about it. We used to have a 59-day, we buy your house. So our USP was if we can't sell your house in 59 days or less, we'll buy it from you. Well, guess what? We bought 2 houses in 7 years. 2 houses, 7 years. Why? Because we were giving them 80, 85 cents on the dollar. They maybe had some work, some things that need to be done on the house. Totally get it. For them, it was a great program. But how many houses did it get us into that we wouldn't have gotten into otherwise? I mean, I couldn't even quantify that number. If I had to guess, I would say probably at least 150 plus per year, a total guess. Because people didn't necessarily always know who we were, but they're like, oh, I saw you guys. You're that billboard that you'll guarantee the buyout of the house, or oh, you're the ad online that guarantees, or you're the radio ad, which brings me into a really important question. And this is a question that I feel like we really want to hit home on. In your opinion, Dale, what do you think for today's realtor? What do you think some of the biggest challenges that they have just kind of running a real estate team and being, in the field? I mean, what do you think is one of the biggest obstacles that real estate agents have in general?
That's a huge question. Now,
it is.
Let's pare it down a little bit, because when you say running a team has what's that?
I said he's going 3 levels deep on me. He's peeling the onion. Continue. I like it. Go for it.
I want to let's set the parameters, right? Because
absolutely,
teams have so many internal issues, right, around being effective, efficient, profitable, all that kind of stuff. And then there's the outside stuff of generating business, keeping business, gaining market share or not losing market share, whatever it is, right? So Matt, when you're asking about problems, when you say the biggest problems, where do you want to be, outside or inside?
I would say I want to work. You know what? I'd say a mix of both. I want to look. Let's look at outside first. What outside factors would be the biggest challenge that you feel for real estate agents? What are some outside things? Threats.
I think that one of the biggest ones is how do I build my market share and how do I maintain my market share? While it's being eroded by, essentially what's going on right now is I could be anywhere on the planet and I could generate a real estate lead for anywhere in the United States and Canada.
Huge.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's completely dislocated at this point. You've got disruptors in that space and you've got complete dislocation. And I mean, I can be in Czechoslovakia and not have a license in whatever your state is, and I can generate leads in that area. So the competition is now gone beyond your local competitors or even the big dogs who've come in, the national companies generating leads. It's now mushrooming into sort of like, it's a joke. Lead generation becomes a joke, right? So where do I invest my time? Where do I invest my money? How do I compete on that scale when I'm now competing across the world essentially for the same leads in my market, if that makes sense?
Oh, it's huge. Totally makes sense, because that's even where I feel like with our inside sales company, I mean, we're US based, but we hire expats. So we'll hire people in the States as well, but we also hire expats. So I mean, I've got people that literally they were selling real estate, 15, 20 years ago. And I feel like the art of the phone, the art of closing the deal over the phone has, diminished a little bit over the years, because people now are relying solely on, okay, well, I'm going to email them, or I'm going to do, I'm going to reach out to them on a different marketing medium. But to be able to have a high level educated conversation with someone has started to diminish. And I think our ability to communicate the value that we provide and how we differentiate really has gone down. But the great thing is that I'm not just limited to a scope of a local marketplace. I can go outside of that market. I can go anywhere. So you're right. I feel like that's a threat and an opportunity if you're utilizing it the right way. What about internally? What do you think are some internal threats? And I mean, just for a team, and again, high level, I guess, team, I mean, what are some of the biggest challenges, bottlenecks you've seen with some of the teams that either you're coaching or you have coached, or ones that you've been in the same ecosystem?
Yeah, I think that the biggest issues I see with teams, once they have their systems down, like their lead generation, their CRM, their marketing, does their paperwork, those kind of functional things, it's me as a team leader, I can either go out and sell lots of houses and make a lot of money, but I don't want to keep doing that. How do I make money with these other people? And how can I do this profitably, right? How do I find the right agents? How do I how do I invest in the right people and then have them produce a return for me and stick around, right? And do all of this profitably without losing money.
It's huge.
That's the biggest challenge, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, in an external way, to just kind of taking it back, the way I look at it externally is there are so many discount brokerages or these little pop-up companies that keep coming up that are trying to steal market share. Or you've got, and again, I mean, I love them or hate them. I'll keep any opinions to myself with it. But Zillow will, a lot of times is coming in and they're starting to, do some different type of programs where they're basically taking away from the buyer's agent in some cases. And it hasn't really worked at this point. But and frankly, I don't believe that if agents become more of a marketer and really do what we're doing. I mean, the biggest thing where I feel like most people miss out, I don't know why the hell people don't do it. Content is king. If you don't have content and you're not putting the content in the right mediums, you're not getting your face to camera, it really makes it challenging to become that go-to person in the marketplace. It becomes challenging to become an authority figure. And the way that we're marketing now is so different than what it used to be. There was a post the other day about someone that had their marketing on the back of a Yellow Pages, and I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I don't even remember the last time a Yellow Pages or White Pages got delivered to my house. I mean, at one point,
I didn't know if those books still exist.
They exist. I mean, I couldn't believe that they exist. So I mean, my whole premise behind it is, I mean, the bottom line is you differentiate or you die. That's how I look at it. And I mean, just getting really, really clear with this. I mean, so there was an update on the iPhone, which I know, like, this is one of those. It was a scary update at first, but we were forward thinking on it. iOS 13 has this stupid feature that says block unknown callers. So now, when I'm not just saying unknown where they block the telephone number, I'm talking where, like, if a doctor's office calls you or your dentist and you just so happen to not save them in your phone, well, guess what? It's going to ring to your voicemail. I'm terrible at checking my voicemail, just being totally open and honest. Sometimes I'll go 24 hours without checking it.
First of all, like, out of all the voicemails that you have,
right,
what percentage is actually a real voicemail from something that you need to know about or talk about?
It's so small. It really is. It's small.
All those douchebags who are killing our pickup rate with their robo dialers from who knows where in a cave somewhere, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they're the ones that are messing it up for everybody.
Well, and that was why we reverse engineered it and said, okay, we need to become more of a contact center. Let's start evening up the numbers where now we're doing more texting. And Kristen, I mean, I'm going to use her as an example. I mean, I watch Kristen, and Kristen does our B2B sales for us. I mean, Kristen, what is your response rate like when you're texting? I mean, compared to making a phone call, what have you noticed?
So much better. And I tell you, agents, I find, and I think just people in general, because everyone's so busy. We know how busy real estate agents are and brokers and everything. They respect the fact that I reached out on text, didn't leave them 10 voicemails, and told them what I had in mind. I tell them and say, look, I'm going to be calling from this area code. And people really appreciate that because they consider like I'm considering their time. And I'm in consideration of their time. And they honestly, so many people thank me for doing it that way.
But this validates what Dale is doing and what I'm doing so much more, because think about it like this. It's not like I said earlier, guys, I mean, back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you could suck on the telephone. You'd be terrible. And still, I talked to 23 people today and I got one appointment. I'm so proud of myself. Now, if you talk to 23 people, you damn well better have 4 or 5 appointments. So what do you need to do? Your skill set needs to increase. You got to get better at converting. So it's huge. I mean, there's so many different changes. And then really, I believe personally that agents need to become more of a marketer. They need to realize, how do you effectively market? And I'm not saying, pay or go invest in Zillow. I mean, you can do that, but the goal is, how do you become a more effective marketer? Dale, have you been seeing kind of in your business, I know we've talked about marketing before, but have you been seeing kind of the need to do more, get in front of the camera? Because you're in lab coats, I mean, almost all the time. What, a week? You have a weekly call that you're doing?
We do a weekly webinar inside Lab Coat Agents.
I love it. And tell me, what is that? The weekly webinar, what do you guys do in that?
It's called Cash Call, and we take recorded calls from agents and ISAs, and we play them and we coach on them.
Love it.
So we're reviewing calls, essentially. It's what we all do in our businesses, what we do in coaching and training, and what you do in your ISA company, right? As quality control in order to help people improve their skills. And basically, we just made it a show and run that every week, and everybody loves it.
I love it. I think that is so impactful. So guys, if you want more too from Dale, if you go to Lab Coat Agents in the Facebook group, and you want to see some of the things that Dale is doing, it's pretty awesome. Dale, I mean, I guess the last thing I want to ask you, are you okay with me talking about one of the little projects that we're working on?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say I have a Facebook group also, Smart Inside Sales. So if you're not a member of Lab Coat, which I don't know if there's any realtors left that aren't, but if you want a more direct line, you can also go to my group, Smart Inside Sales, and we post a ton of free content in there, trainings, things like that, and it's easy. I'm easy to find. You can also email me, Dale@smartinsidesales.com.
I love it.
Go ahead, Matt.
I love it. So we both, it's funny, and the reason why we, and actually I'm just putting up here too so that everyone can see. So it's Dale at smartinsidesales.com. So guys, if you want help with inside sales, I mean, look, here's the deal. I have trained with, I mean, Jordan Belfort, Hoss Pratt, John Sheplack, Ryan Stewman, Frank Kern. I mean, I can keep going. I'm a sucker for coaching. When I hear good coaches, I just throw money. But it's worth it. I
should have started charging you. We never talked about money.
I know, right? But it's funny because every time I've sat through somebody who is and I'm going to use it, the prospecting guru, which Dale has never said he was ever a guru, but Dale is phenomenal. And I mean, I sat through in there in Vegas, and it's funny because I sit there, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to keep an open mind about what Dale's presenting because
what are you going to teach me that I haven't seen before?
But I'll tell you what, the one thing that you do that I believe is so impactful, and it's where even I'm thinking, man, if I could just tweak my approach a little bit, the one thing that you do is you literally make it so A, B, C, and you connect the dots perfectly for people that haven't gone through and prospected, or for people that are even experts at prospecting. There's still value. And I was sitting there, I'm like, wow, because we use a similar approach, but the way that you quantify, the way that you're connecting the dots and getting people to engage and getting them to give out all their information. And then, of course, again, sharing their story. They don't want to keep sharing their story. So it's those little things really resonated with me when we were sitting there and I was watching your presentation. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And the cool thing is Dale didn't have anything to sell that day. Dale was like, hey, I want to just add some value. Here's the value. And I'm sitting there like, man, this is really good. I'm like, I took some notes. I was like, this is great. I need to actually talk to my team about this a little bit more on this approach that Dale uses, because it's very smooth, and at the same time it avoids friction, because that's really where I think the biggest challenges in this industry is that people don't trust realtors. I mean, they don't. There was an NAR study I wrote a book about a year ago, and in that book I had in there was an NAR study. In that study it said that realtors are slightly trusted just a little bit more than lawyers. And I mean, that's rough. I mean, that's a rough
lawyers.
Right. I mean, so it's, and I mean, I say that as an agent myself. It's tough knowing that, we've literally created this ecosystem of people in a community that doesn't trust the agent. So the biggest thing is building back up that trust. But going back to what we were talking about, the last thing I want to touch on here is we were talking about, so we both identified a really common need within the industry, and we're running a beta program where we're going to actually do a secret shopper phone call for your team. So if you're a team leader and you're on here now and you're wondering, well, how do I get my team to perform better? How do I get them to increase their conversion? Or maybe you want them to get an inside sales rep, and instead of, because again, we all know how good, no matter what, I don't care what anyone says, it's very difficult for an agent to follow up consistently and consecutively if they have too many leads and they don't have enough help, because you got to have the skills, but then you also got to have the resources. And in the way that we are looking at it is we'll go in, we'll do a secret shop for your team. We'll listen to the call. We'll be it won't be any of us that'll be on that call. We'll have one of our guys on there that will literally take down the information. They'll record the call, and then they'll meet with the team leader after the phone call. When they meet with that team leader, it's going to allow us to get very clear with them and let them know exactly where the challenge is, where the bottleneck is. And then from there, they can make the decision whether or not, option A, get some coaching, or option B, get somebody to have it done for you where they're going to make the phone call. So if anyone is interested in that, again, I gave Dale's email. You can also message me. It's Matt Milia at appointmentstoday.net, and I will put that across the screen. So you can email myself or email Dale. Dale, hey, thank you so much for jumping on. I think we lost Kristen a long time ago. I don't know.
Oh, no, Kristen's here.
Oh, is she? All right. For some reason, it's a black screen where I'm looking, but that's all right. Kristen, you still with us?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Well, she's with us in spirit. Anyway, so Dale, was there anything else that you wanted to add? I mean, I feel like this was great. Would love to definitely have you back on again in the future here. Any big takeaways or just nuggets you want to drop on everybody here before we jump off?
Yeah, you know what? I think that I think that the most important thing is, Matt, and this comes from having listened to so many hours of calls. There's like people who know they're not great at sales conversations and they need to improve. And then there's people who are like, I've been doing this so long, I'm fantastic at it. And they don't realize that they need to improve. But here's what I can tell you. After listening to so many thousands of hours of people, especially those people who think they're awesome at it, they don't know what they don't know. And if they listen to themselves or had somebody else listen to them, they would be astonished and they would still be able to level up their game. Everybody listening to this can level up their game. And because there's so much competition out there, we have to be squeezing. We don't need more leads. We need to squeeze more conversions out of those leads.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm glad you brought that up because there are so many people who, and again, I mean, I've seen in all areas of the industry, just set me up on the appointment, I'm going to close them down. And I love the mindset. Mindset is great, but you have to have the skills behind it. And whether it's on the phone or in person, I mean, you have to start somewhere. The phone is the first area that is going to give you, it's going to give you that, it's going to give you that tool that you need. It's that tool, it's the medium. And again, maybe you're using, something for all of you guys that are watching, if you're not using Facebook Messenger to prospect, and I know this is a little bit outlandish, but I'm telling you, if you're prospecting and you just so happen to find that person on Facebook, you shoot them a message on Messenger. Wow, watch your conversation. All of a sudden, you're going to start talking to them because you're no longer the big bad wolf. You have become a human. They look at you like, oh, wow, okay, this person is actually trying to engage and have a conversation with me. So don't be afraid to use different mediums.
Use them all.
Yeah.
Connect with somebody everywhere and use them all.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think, there are a lot of people out there that tout themselves as the gurus or say they are the best when it comes to making the calls, but you got to be humble. I mean, because like, I can't tell you, when I went in, I listened to Dale, and I mean, I was, at that point, I mean, hell, we were in Vegas. So, I mean, I was going on maybe a couple hours of sleep. I think I lost my liver in the MGM Grand somewhere. It was a phenomenal night. It was a great experience. I met so many amazing people, but meeting Dale was probably, I mean, it was the highlight of the trip because I literally had to. I know. I like to boost it.
No, more about me.
True.
More about me.
But it's true because when we were able to go in there and I was able to take back some of the takeaways that I had from, I said, man, this is great. I had a page and a half of notes. And again, if I was in my own head, if I was like, man, this guy, I run a call center. I don't need to listen to him. I run a call center. I know what I'm doing.
Teach people how to do this.
But a lot of people, again, if you can always, I believe that you can always learn something. And I also think that you also have to question everything by testing it. And some of us are so afraid to make moves that we won't test things or that we won't get out of our comfort zone. And we think we're the greatest and there's nothing left to learn. But, just like Sab said, and thank you for that, it's true. You need to have a learner mindset. And Stephanie, that's as well. So true. People don't know what they don't know. It's gold. So, well, Dale, I appreciate you jumping on. I think this was great. I think we dropped a lot of value. So guys, again, if you're looking for some extra help, you can email Matt Milia at appointmentstoday.net. Or if you want a much easier one, which again, it is easier, Dale at smartinsidesales.com. Very, very easy way to get a hold of us. Or you can even shoot a message over to our Appointments Today page. And other than that, Dale, again, thank you for jumping on. And we'll see you all on the next one.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. See ya.
Bye.